I would tell them to take it seriously. Just because you see it in the news doesn't mean it can't happen to you. Um, Not all businesses make the news. So people will see Home Depot or Forever 21 or Uber or Yahoo, and they'll be like, man, he's a big company. They're not going to affect, me, the local, multi-million dollar company that, remodels bathrooms. It's not gonna hurt me. I got 3 locations with, 50 computers. I'm small potatoes. They're not coming after me. And that's a false sense of security to give yourself. They are coming after you, and you are not too small to get hit. This is happening to small businesses, large and small, every day. One of the other myths that I get is, I'm not important enough. They want bigger fish, or I don't have anything they want. And these people saying those things aren't criminals. These are good people who are trying to make a living and pay their employees and do something good in the community. These people coming after you and launching this ransomware against you, these are not good people. They think really high on the criminal side of things. So even if it's not about you, they may use the weakness on your side to get to other people. So sometimes they're not trying to attack you, but because you don't have any defenses in place, they can use you as a jump off point to go get other people. And those things happen all the time. So that's the advice I would give organizations about reading ransomware in the news. It's not getting better. And there are so many ways that these cyber criminals are getting this ransomware into your systems. We were talking about Colonial Pipeline earlier. That's, it's basic IT best practices to remove your employees' access to your systems before you let them go from your company. And they didn't do that, and they suffered the consequences for that. Some of this stuff is coming in as emails, and it might say EC Council, and it'll say, hey, open this attachment, this Word doc, a DOC, not a DOCX, but a DOC. And the email address will say, EC Council Joe Bag of Donuts at AOL.com. Like, we know that is not your email address for the EC Council. But if you don't look at the email address, then you're going to open that thing up and you're done. They got the ransomware in your systems. So people not being trained and not being able to see the signs of these attacks concerns me a lot, because it's a psychological thing. They're trying to fake you out and get you to bite the hook. A lot of it's hook. So they'll send you an email. They'll call you on the phone. They'll say you have an invoice that you need to pay. You're behind on your bills, and they're going to cut your service off like tonight. So all the recipes for phishing attacks, they're using these things to throw ransomware into your systems. You have people not defending their networks. So they have a cable modem or a modem, and then all their computers for their network, and there's nothing in the middle. There's no intrusion prevention device. There's no security gateway or anything with any kind of intelligence. It's just the modem and all your systems. There's no, a firewall by itself is not enough to stop these threats. And people who are uninformed and uneducated don't know that. They just see that their internet works and their computers seem to work okay, and they feel that they're safe, and they're not. So the pervasive ignorance on the topic and the threat it concerns me the most. No, don't pay the ransom. You shouldn't pay the ransom. Don't pay the ransom. But if you aren't prepared, you may not have a choice but to pay the ransom. So the key is, you're talking about the ethical approach, is get your stuff together now while your systems seem to be working. Let's get it together. Get cyber liability insurance. That will protect you if you are trying to get your computers up to a certain standard of protection and security. If you have a cyber breach or something like ransomware, your insurance may come in and help you with that problem. Look for your chambers of commerce or your small business development centers or your colleges or the National Cybersecurity Center here in Colorado Springs, and take some classes on cyber hygiene. Knowledge is power, my friends. That's how we're going to fight this problem. If you can't afford an expert, you should study. And even if you can afford an expert like me, you should still study. That way you don't hire someone who claims to be an expert and they're clearly not an expert. Those people are out there too. So don't pay the ransom. But if you aren't prepared, you may not have a choice. Your biggest defense against having to pay ransomware is to back up your data. And I'm not talking about plugging a USB hard drive into your computer. That is not the backup that we're talking about. That's not going to work. I'm not talking about having a server on the same network that everything else is on and using that as a backup. That won't work either. You need to have an offsite backup that is not connected to any of your stuff. So if a ransomware hits your systems and encrypts all your files, it'll go around your network and try to find your servers and it'll encrypt all those too. You have a backup in the cloud somewhere else that's not affected. So just restore it and get back to work. It's that simple. And you won't have to pay the ransom. I think that is because you can't catch them because of the nature of the crime. It's a computer crime. And they are doing everything possible to obscure their identities. Just the nature of the crypto transactions and the blockchain and all the stuff that's involved. Like, it's hard to track where that money goes. And everything being electronic these days, I can stand up an account, get money to it, and then close it almost immediately and move it. As ethical hackers, we have to study the criminal hacker methodology to be able to protect you from them. You can take an IP address and you might think it's coming from Russia, but there's ways to make it look like it's coming from anywhere. I'll make the attack look like it's coming from your house. You won't find me. It's very hard. It's very hard to catch these people. So that's why it's so important to get your security and stuff at a higher standard before there's a problem, before they get you. Because after they hack you, it's harder. It's so much harder and so much painful. 60% of businesses go out of business within the first 6 months of these cyber attacks. And it's not just because of the ransomware. It's because of, if you're a medical profession, here in the United States, we have a regulation called HIPAA, and it's up to $50,000 per record if it's found that you were negligent protecting consumer data. Over in the EU, you have the GDPR requirement. That's a lot harsher. those fines, and they hit all kinds of companies for not protecting consumer data. So take care of the issue before it's a problem. It's like your health. Go to the doctor and get checked out regularly. So, because once you have cancer, it's a lot harder to get rid of it. But if we can detect it early and get the early signs and handle it, then you have a chance for living a long, fulfilling life. Same thing goes for these cyber attacks. All these answers I've been giving you before, like, I practice what I preach. And so we have backups of everything that are offsite. We have two-factor authentication, sometimes double 2FA, to get into some of our systems and access our data. If somebody wanted to get into our stuff, they'd have to try really hard. But if they happen to get in, we wouldn't be paying ransom. We definitely would not be paying ransom. We would just recover our data from the last backup and keep it moving, and get back to work. As a managed service provider, I'm well aware that we are big targets for cybercrime because we manage other companies and we have remote access to other companies, so they're coming after us too. Knock on wood, thank God that has not been an issue in the 11 years we've been in business. But I am not comfortable ever. I'm never comfortable. I'm always watching and trying to make sure that we have everything at a high standard of security, because we're not just protecting ourselves, we're responsible for protecting a whole bunch of other companies. So if we got hit with a ransomware attack today, we just recover our backups. We would get in touch with our attorney, call our insurance provider, We would definitely do some forensic work, probably call in another forensic team to go in and see what we're not able to see. Because we're good, but there's always somebody better, and it's always good to have another pair of eyes on things. So we probably have another forensic company come in and tell us where they got us, how they get in when we have so many locks and keys and protections on so much. Like, how in the world they get in? And I'm also very aware that nothing is 100% secure. When I see some of these cyber attacks that have happened to larger global entities whose business is cybersecurity, for multinational corporations, and they get hacked, I ask the engineers at these companies, if there's a special cyber attack developed just for you, is there a way to protect yourself from it? And the answer is no. That's a very chilling response from like the best cyber experts in the world. So you just have to be resilient and always be watching and always be prepared and always keep your stuff secure. Don't let your passwords lapse. You have to stay on it. And so far, that has been an effective strategy to keep from getting in trouble. When I look at some of these cyber attacks for other folks, I was talking about Colonial Pipeline. These are things that, these are best practice things that they got wrong. Some of these companies had all their stuff taken care of and they still got hacked. So we just keep our fingers crossed and make sure we do our due diligence in protecting our systems. And so far, that's been working. It's been working. Well, part of it is because of the encryption that ransomware uses, asymmetric encryption. So there's a public key and a private key. So, if you don't have both of them, it's really hard to decrypt that information. If it was symmetric encryption, it'd be a lot easier. But of course, the cyber attackers aren't going to use symmetric because we can easily overturn those. What I have found is that there is a lot of work to try to reverse engineer those keys regardless. And there has been some success in these. So there are repositories to reverse engineer or reverse encrypt or decrypt your files that have been encrypted by ransomware. Some of the older variants of these viruses. But there's always new ones. So as soon as we figure out a decryption for one or several, then there's a new version that comes out. So we're always chasing the newest threat. We're always one step behind the criminal. And that's a pain, but that's how it really has always been. That's why it's so important to defend yourself before the attack. Keep them out ahead of time. Because once they get in, it's a lot harder. So I have found some decryption keys online, but we're always playing catch up. We go over the encryptions. We go over the threats that are out there. The Certified Ethical Hacker certification definitely gives you an edge when combating these cyber crimes, because it really brings you into the darkness behind the curtain. And, this is more than just regular IT knowledge. The Certified Ethical Hacker credential is taking you to that next step, which makes you a really amazing cyber defender of threats. So, the more, like I was telling you earlier, knowledge is power. And there's an incredible amount of power in the Certified Ethical Hacker certification to be able to combat these crimes and be able to recognize them. Be able to recognize the holes that are on a system that you can patch and plug to keep bad people out. Because now you know how they get in. You know even more and better how they get in because you have this credential. So with great power comes, great responsibility. Would you be better prepared to actually deploy ransomware on the systems with a CEH? Sure. But the ethical part is the piece that's important. We are ethical hackers. So yes, we know all the dark knowledge, but we use our knowledge to help and defend people that can't help and defend themselves. And sometimes we end up getting involved with other experts with our level of knowledge to help forensics and find out how these people got in to the systems in the first place. Certified Ethical Hacker also helps you see that. side of things. So it's a very important certifications. If you don't have it, you should get it. It'll definitely open your eyes, because when you don't have the knowledge, you can't see things because you don't know them. But once you have this credential, you will see a lot more and be able to do a lot more to help people. And that's what it's all about, is helping people.